What do y'all say? Let's just go on to the Sweet 16. How about it?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. This game is brought to you by Episode Time. I don't know. But, want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen every single day. Alabama is on to the Sweet 16 for the third straight year, Jimmy, and oh, how sweet it is.
Yeah, stay tuned for tweets over the next couple of days trying to put this in historical perspective. I mean, this is a big, big deal. And I hope Alabama fans who are almost sort of new to being this good in basketball. Hey, look, even Kentucky and Duke and the Indianas, they celebrate Sweet 16s. They're not entitled to them either. I mean, and my worry is that Nate Oates has been so incredible so quickly that we got spoiled or ruined too fast. Getting to the Sweet 16 is a big deal. I know beating Robert Morris isn't beating Duke, and I know beating St. Mary's isn't beating, Duke, but you're in the Sweet 16. It's a big, I think, and Luke may even know off the top of his head, I think this is only going to be the 12th trip ever to the Sweet 16. 12th ever. And I'm like 100 years old. I've seen almost all of them. But just 12 trips, and I'm old. So it's a big deal to get here, Luke. And I'm thrilled for this team and what they've been able to accomplish. And regardless of what happens in the next game of BYU, this team has now, raised a banner. This will be in a banner in the Coliseum. So it's a big deal.
It is the 12th. And what I love about Wikipedia is already updated to the 12th.
How about that? How about that? The engineers. The engineers at Wikipedia. Shout out.
They're not the engineers, just the regular dudes who update Wikipedia.
Okay, them.
Because that is Wikipedia is like updated by people like you and me, which is insane because that's like asking for trouble. But of course, I'm down here in the Dominican Republic. I had to move heaven and earth to find a way to watch this game. They have a sports bar here at this resort where we're staying, and it's the language barrier and then another language barrier because talking to me, even if you speak English, can be difficult at times. And we finally
what's on the normal sports bar TV and where you are? Is it soccer? And when you say soccer, do they get pissed? Because that's football. And when you say I want to watch basketball, they're like, which one is that?
Well,
is that the one with the bats?
They did have a lot of people that wanting to watch basketball because it is the NCAA tournament, so they did find it. But they had every TV on Kentucky for a minute, and there wasn't anybody in there that was like a Kentucky or an Illinois fan. And we were like, we just need one. We just need one. Uno. Yeah. That was the best we could do.
I'm impressed that you quickly came up with the Uno there. That's good.
So
you assimilated.
I think I had one of those camarones. It went down my throat wrong. I think I had
that's shrimp. I think is that not shrimp? How about that? How about
Jimmy
that?
is also in the Mexican restaurant.
That's right.
But okay. So let's talk about this game. So I didn't get to engulf myself in it the way I normally would. But what are your thoughts just off the top of your head?
First of all, tough matchup in terms of style of play. And I know St. Mary's doesn't have, 5 guys in their lineup. They're going to be NBA players. In a typical SEC game, we're playing against guys, teams that have 2 or 3 NBA type guys. That's why it's a tough matchup because, whether it's Hubbard at Mississippi State or whoever, in the SEC, these teams have dudes that are really tough to match up with. Walt Taylor, the league's full of them. Well, St. Mary's doesn't really have that, but what they have is a style of play that's very difficult to contend with. You don't see it. Who in the SEC, I beg any of you to tell me, who in the SEC plays like them? No one. So adapting to that or having to deal with that on short notice is very difficult. I think they did a great job with it in terms of, St. Mary's hasn't given up 80 points in a game in 3 years, and Alabama did it tonight, despite the fact they didn't even shoot it that great. They shot it okay. But again, I know we can nitpick things, Luke, and I know we have a show to nitpick things. There were too many turnovers. We're not shooting it great from three. Mark Sears' shot has disappeared. All of those things are nitpicky things, and they are relevant. But what tonight needs to be is a celebration of getting to the Sweet 16. It would be just a shame. One of my pet peeves, and God knows I have too many of them, but one of my pet peeves is fans that diminish accomplishment. They're like, oh, well, that, you beat Robert Morris at St. Mary's. Getting to the Sweet 16 is a major accomplishment. If it was easy, more than 16 teams would do it. There's only 16 teams left. You start with 340. There's 16 left. Alabama, for only the 12th time, is one of those 16. Let's celebrate that. And then in the run-up to BYU, we'll start talking about, we turn it over too much. Mark's not shooting the ball well, and that sort of thing. BYU, by the way, plays completely the opposite of St. Mary's. From what little I know, we'll dive into BYU all week. But I think BYU is more a mirror image, Luke. I think the right GIF this week for describing Alabama BYU is the Spider-Man, pointing at each other when there's two Spider-Men. I mean, Alabama and BYU, very similar in terms of style of play here in the A.J. Diabate Bowl we have later this week.
Yeah, it is the A.J. Diabate Bowl. There's no doubt about it. And Michael Southern was on earlier with me today, and we talked about that. I'm going to read some of these comments very quickly. I believe I'm going to see what it is. Jada Goat. Is that? I don't know. Says Sears should be on the bench. Let me just say this. And look, we appreciate your listening, and we can come here and disagree. And I'm going to vehemently disagree. Mark Sears didn't play his best game. He had 3 fouls early. He wasn't top Mark Sears. But you know what he did, like in the middle of the second half, was he took over. I looked with a bunch of folks that are here on this trip with us. I said, Sears just decided I'm going to take this over. He scored about it either was 6 straight points or like 6 of 8 points. And he just decided I'm going to get to the rim and I'm going to put up a floater and it's going to go in. And
Sears should only be benched when he's getting abused on the defensive end. That has happened. Not all the time. People overplay it. Some of the time, and some of his time in Tuscaloosa, Mark's been kind of whipped on the defensive end. He should be benched when that happens. That's not happening. What's happening now is Mark is in a shooting slump, and it's frustrating because these games are so big. But shooters shoot. You know how Mark's going to break out of his slump? Keep shooting. Mark, keep shooting.
No shooter has ever broken out of a slump by not shooting.
That's right.
I can tell you that. And he has to keep shooting. He wasn't on his game tonight. And that's fine, because here's the deal. I've said this several times. You're not going to play 6 great games to get to the championship. And a matter of fact, I'm glad we haven't played 2 good games so far. We're in the Sweet 16. We haven't played very well. We played okay. I mean, there was some great effort there tonight. Amori had some unbelievable dunks again. That one alley-oop that he got, I believe it was from Sears, where he dunked it behind his back. That was insanity. The whole sports bar went crazy. Grant Nelson, I thought, played pretty well again.
They were like, everybody in the sports bar there was like, hands. He used his hands. That's a penalty kick. Penalty kick.
You must kick the ball. But man, it was, a lot of things that you said we could nitpick. But why? I mean, be happy. We're in the second weekend. This is what you want. Like, think about this too. Think about how many times Kentucky recently hasn't been to the second weekend when they've had more talent. We've
only won this next game we're about to play. We've only won it twice, ever. And I know people say, but we're going to be a 16-point favorite against BYU. We've only won the next game twice, ever. Let's celebrate and be happy and be supportive of these kids. This stuff isn't easy.
And somebody said, hey, BYU is going to be tough. Of course they are.
Yeah.
If you
Oh,
lose
yeah.
Sweet 16, you're going to be tough.
You don't play anybody this time. Remember when we lost to San Diego State 2 years ago, and it was a team they never should have lost to. They made it to the final. I mean, everyone is good in the Sweet 16. You're not getting a break anywhere. Is Alabama going to be favored? Yes. Is Alabama better than BYU? I think so. Is it going to be easy?
Nah.
HE double hockey sticks? No.
God, I hit the wrong button. That's on me, y'all.
Oh, it's exciting. I was ready to start all over.
I mean, it was.
No, we're starting over. I'm cool.
Like,
I'm cool with it.
Jimmy ruined it. I'm starting over. I don't even know where I'm going now. Yes, I do. I'm going to 5-hour AG. Let me tell you something. I'm going to need 5-hour AG tomorrow because I'm supposed to play golf, which I don't ever do. But I didn't need it today. I had a great time going out on a boat, hanging out, and then went to watch the Bama game. And you know what? If I wanted to stay up and do something fun tonight, I'd take a 5-hour energy, but I don't. I want to go to bed, so I'm not going to take a 5-hour energy. But I probably will tomorrow. I will take one to play some golf and try and hit that little white ball. And 5-hour energy is my go-to, baby. I love it. You can head to 5hourenergy.com and find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. You need one now? Grab a 5-hour energy shot at your local grocery store, convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized, because 5-hour energy will get you energized. I'm telling you this from personal experience. I'm not lying to y'all. I've used 5-hour energy and I love it. And I think Jimmy has too. And I'm telling you, it is delicious. It tastes great. And it's super easy and inexpensive. Go get you a 5-hour energy. Go check out 5hourenergy.com. All right. So, individually, Mo Diabate, another, again, sitting with people watching this at the bar, some Alabama fans that I'm not necessarily like super close to or whatever, but I know them more today than I knew them before. And it was funny, Mo Diabate leaned back for a 3, sort of step back, I guess, and leaned back. And at the time, St. Mary's had cut it to maybe 8. And he was like, no, don't take that. And I was like, hold on, let's hear him out. Let's hear out Mo Diabate. And Mo just nails it. And it's not the prettiest. Mo does not have a very pretty shot. When Aiden Holloway shoots the ball, it's pretty. It may not end well, but it's pretty from the start. Mo's is not attractive, and it ends pretty. And it goes in the bucket. It's like he pushed it in there, you know? There's not usually a great arc on it. But what Mo is a gamer. I don't know at this point if we should even talk about Mo Diabate anymore, because I have been so effusive in my praise of him that I'm like, there's nothing else I can say. I love the man.
He wills the team to wins. I mean,
Yeah.
Mo's a winner. All the things it takes to win a basketball game, Mo Diabate is doing. And of course, it looks better, as Luke said. You know, it can look prettier. He's never going to be that guy. He's just an effort, blue collar guy. The one thing, you know, and again, nitpicking, I think when he starts feeling it, he does a little too much offensively. Sometimes you're like, Mo, that's not you. No, Mo, that's not you. You're not all of a sudden James Harden. Whoa, Mo, whoa. But you got to love Mo. Mo's the easiest guy. He's the easiest guy to like on the team in terms of the way he plays. And I thought in terms of hard hat stuff, we got on and did the show immediately when the game's over. So I haven't seen who won the hard hat. Mo's a candidate. Grant Nelson's a candidate. Cliff Amory's a candidate. Here's a guy that also plays hard that sometimes it doesn't always show up on the box score, but LeBaron Phylon is a nice hard hat guy at times. His defense on the perimeter is good. He hustles after loose balls. He wants to make a play. LeBaron just sort of, I think he's lacking confidence right now on the offensive end. I see him pass up shots all the time, and I don't think LeBaron Phylon of November and December ever passed up a shot. He does now. Some of that's maturity. Some of it's like, hey, this isn't my role, which is unbelievable for an 18-year-old star like he is. But hey, for things to go well next weekend, for Alabama to survive BYU and most certainly Duke, Sears better come to life. Phylon better find that offensive game. It's all got to go well to survive next weekend. But hey, let's worry about that when we get there. Tonight should be 24-hour rule stuff. Let's celebrate getting the Sweet 16. It's a major, major accomplishment. Ask the other 328 teams who aren't playing.
Yeah, let me say this about Phylon. I thought he, for the most part, played pretty well. I thought there was a time or two. I know one time we sort of had a break, and it was like a half-hearted break, but then he decides just to pull up and pop a three. And of course, he missed it. And I'm thinking, that's not what we want right there. That's
Right.
not, you've got to know that's not what we want. Now, there was also a steal late in the game by him that appeared to be slightly tipped by the initial defender and then clearly blocked. By the second, they called goaltend. They reviewed it. I think the right call was ultimately made, that it wasn't goaltending.
Agreed.
But it worked out in our benefit because nobody actually just got possession of the ball afterwards. So it went to a jump ball, and it was Alabama's ball. But my thought was, okay, you get a steal like that, back it out. I know, like, it's in the moment, it's so hard to understand. I think a seasoned veteran would understand. And I think at this point, LeBaron is a seasoned veteran who's probably going to go on and be a very high NBA draft pick. And I think he's got to make the smarter decision there. But as I told somebody too, while we were up like 10, and I think they were like plus or minus 10, and there were about 3 minutes to go. And he said, we need to take some air out of the ball. I said, that's not what we do. That's not how we operate. We're not going to do that because you can't practice all summer, all fall, all during the regular season, and then as soon as the off season's over, you can't practice go, and then say, okay, y'all chill it out last 3 minutes. Now, it's one thing to do it when there's 50 seconds left, and it's still sort of helter-skelter in the sense that people are trying to steal, but they're also trying to foul, so they play a little more aggressively. But when it's a 3.5 minutes left, and our guys have the ball and it's 2-on-2, it's tough to say you got to know to pull that back out. It makes sense to. I'm just saying I don't think that's what we're ever going to do under this regime, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, it's a style of play, and it's something that they push. And I think tonight is a lot about style of play. I mean, and that takes some self-realization. And by that, I mean, you can't be married to your style of play to the point that you're making turnovers. Nate Oates himself brought up that point, I think, in the first time out when they talked to him about how, yeah, we want to push the ball, but we don't want to make stupid mistakes in the name of pushing the ball. We don't want to say, hey, we push the ball and therefore we'll make stupid mistakes. I think Alabama needs to value the ball and push it at the same time because there just were too many turnovers in the first half. I think there were 9, and they ended up with a pretty good number overall. But if you turn it over 9 times in the first half and 9 times in the second half, that's 18 for the game. Way too many and could cost you. So don't be a self-realizer. Yes, it's the style of which we play and it's in the DNA, but you can't let it lead to turnovers and silly mistakes in the name of we must push the ball because that's who we are. Oh, file on, but what does he know? Oh, mute.
I did mute. I think I coughed and then muted instead of muted and then coughed. But so sorry about that.
Yeah.
I said, love File. What has he done to show that he's worth the NBA draft pick? He's shown a lot. I would say that, number one. But number two, the NBA would be much happier with saying, hey, we don't know what all he is. We just know what we think he can be.
Can be.
That's why he will go higher, a lot higher than somebody like Janai Broome, who could be the National Player of the Year.
Or higher than Mark Sears.
Or higher than Mark Sears. Because you look at LeBaron Phylon, Sears is a better example. I was just thinking of Janai Broome because he's so much older and he's won all these awards, which he should have. But right. Sears has also won awards, first team All-American, done all these things. Yet, but see, we kind of know what Sears is. Like, we don't know. Like, LeBaron is this new shiny toy. You're like, what exactly can I do with this thing? Now, you may find out, oh, I can't do as much with this toy as I thought. But the NBA is willing to take that chance. That's kind of what they do.
I would use a football analogy to describe why LeBaron Phylon's draft stock is so high. Jalen Milroe who I'm guessing today is round 3, and if I'm wrong, round 2. I mean, it looks like Jalen's a solid day 2 pick. There are quarterbacks, like let's use, for instance, gosh, I could just pick a random one, but Riley Leonard, or there's some random day 3 picks or quarterbacks that played this season that didn't turn the ball over, that completed a higher percentage of passes, that were kind of coaches on the field, that didn't make a lot of mistakes. And where are they going to be drafted? Not as high as Jalen Milroe is, who may have made some mistakes and turned over the ball and wasn't always making the right decision out there. But we all know why Milroe is going to be drafted where he is. And the guy that I'm describing, the coach on the field, the guy that didn't turn over the ball, and the guy that completed a higher percentage of passes, but maybe that guy's 6 foot, if that, and he's not overly athletic, and he can't really stretch the field with his arm. That guy's never going to get drafted. And frankly, I'm kind of describing in some way Mark Sears, who I think is going to struggle to be drafted at all. Phylon is a high-end athlete. He's fast. He's built for the position. He's got natural handles. He's got a natural feel for the game. But he's an athlete that when the game speeds up and is played at a much faster pace, Phylon is the type of guy that can keep up. I don't know if Mark can, and that's why Phylon's a high draft pick. I would point out a similar player, similar players, Josh Primo and Kyra Lewis, and even to some extent J.D. Davidson, all examples of guys that are like LeBaron Phylon, and look where they got drafted, even leaving for the pros early.
Matthew Jackson says, "Hey Luke, why was Alabama so good at making SMU?" And I assume, I guess it is St. Mary's University, right? I don't know. When I think SMU, I think something totally different. I go SMS. I don't know why. Isn't that what they say? St. Mary's something?
I think they do say SMS, but we know who he's talking about.
Oh, yeah, play their game in the second half. All right. First of all, I would say Alabama did have a 13-point lead at halftime, right? Wasn't it 13 or 12?
Yeah,
something like that. And so, I just feel like Alabama did a good job of controlling the tempo for the most part through all of it.
They scored 80 total. And I think it was actually 41 in the first half and, quote, only 39 in the second half. But I get what Matthew's saying. It did seem like, here's St. Mary's biggest problem to me playing the way they play, Luke. Once they got behind, they couldn't take as much time on the clock getting their shot off. They're not built to come from behind. They needed to play at a faster tempo in the second half to crawl out of the hole, and it's not there for them because they don't do that. So I think Alabama, I wouldn't say Alabama controlled the tempo, but Alabama did well with it, because if you told me before the game Alabama scored 80, I'd have told you there was a 99% chance Alabama won the game, and they did. So I don't think the tempo. I think Alabama won the tempo. I think they did. Was it perfect all the time? No. I think Matthew brings up a point. They did bog us down for stretches, and credit them. Their bigs are very good at doing big guy things in terms of backing the ball down, scoring over our bigs, eating the clock, scoring in the last 5 seconds of the shot clock. Their bigs are good at that, and we may be allowed too much of that, which is maybe what Matthew's referring to. But overall, hey, the magic number is 80. St. Mary's hadn't allowed it in 3 years. Alabama scored it tonight. I think that in and of itself means overall, over 40 minutes, Alabama won the tempo matchup.
All right, let's talk a little game time. You know how much Jimmy and I both love game time. We've used it a bunch. We can certainly say it is just fantastic. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets should not be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Curation makes it easier to find a better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you want. Game Time's got it. I just checked the Game Time app, and there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. So you need to go check out Game Time too. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. So Alabama move on, and they will play BYU. That game will be on Thursday. It means a little less time for Alabama to get ready, but that's okay. I mean, I think we're talking, a day, and Alabama is well suited to this. I think the injuries seem to have chilled. We seem to be in pretty good shape there.
Is Auburn also playing on Thursday?
No, they play on Friday, but the early line is Alabama minus 4.5, over under of 173. That is a shockingly low line to me, considering these two teams. I say it's low, but I mean, in the end, I guess that averages, that's like 86.5 for both teams, or maybe, 86, 87, whatever. I think it's going to be more than that.
I think it's yeah. I mean, I'd hate to bet on it. I'm not, but it's a 95-90 type game to me. I mean, just right off the top of my head, this is 95-90, and you better score. And I know most people, well, that means you're not playing defense. I don't think that means that at all. I think both teams play at a high pace. Both teams put the ball up a lot. And the winner of the game will be who makes more defensive stops than the other team. Your metrics don't have to be great here. Your points per game don't have to be great here. To win the game, you just have to make more stops than BYU does.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ole Miss is up 12 on Iowa State. I mean, we should give a shout out to the SEC. I mean, Auburn's already in the Sweet 16. Kentucky and Tennessee are in the Sweet 16. Of course, Bama is. There's 4. You got Florida in there as well. Who am I missing, Jimmy?
Arkansas.
That's 6. Ole Miss could make 7.
7 of the 16 would be absurd.
And I told a buddy of mine that I do the Tuesday night shows with, he was like, what number do you think the SEC needs to get in for people not to Danny Canellis?
6.
And I said 5.
5? Oh, okay. I like that.
In the Sweet 16. Because I was like, if I said, I think it'll be 6 that get in, but I think the number needs to be 5 to where people don't sort of point and laugh. So say, yeah, we told you.
6, you can't laugh. And 7
is ridiculous.
Someone's going to have to point out to me the history of it. Maybe Michael Southern, not only friend of the show, dude on our show. Michael Southern may know. I mean, what conference has produced 7 Sweet 16 teams? I doubt it's been done before. It doesn't sound like something that's happened before.
Yeah, that does not sound like something
that's happened.
It'll be interesting to see what time the Bama BYU game is.
They're a West Coast team, so it might be late. Sometimes they do put the West Coast teams later because their crowd it's not late to them.
Well, here's the thing. I think I don't know. It depends on what CBS wants to do here, because I think one thing that could be interesting, what if Colorado State finishes off Maryland and then it's Colorado State, Florida? That is the least attractive of all the games, clearly. Okay.
I agree.
So, Arkansas, Texas Tech has some cachet among basketball people. I don't think it's not exactly moving the meter for just regular sports.
I know that Alabama BYU does, frankly. I think Alabama BYU fans know, wow, what a match. I mean, I think you got to be really into the matchups to know this could look like, and this is a term I'm going to use all week, Luke, I'll go ahead and use it now, NBA All-Star game. That's what this could look like. And I mean it as a compliment. And at the same time, I'm denigrating their defense and Alabama's defense a little bit. I'm doing that on purpose. But I mean it largely as a compliment, because the NBA All-Star game to me is fun to watch. I know most of the people around the country go, boy, what are you on? Nobody plays defense. I don't know. I think it's fun for there to be 160 to 150 with LeBron scoring 48 and Steph scoring 44. I'm cool with this. I'm surprised people aren't.
Yeah. But here's the thing about, you're talking about like viability and sellability of this game. I think BYU carries a lot of weight just because of what they are and what they represent. They carry a lot of weight on a national scale. And then Alabama, we're going to catch some stray viewers just because of our football stuff.
That's true.
I mean, there are going to be some people that are – so I think that game's going to get some love. I think the 2 best games on Thursday are probably going to be whoever ends up playing Duke between Oregon and Arizona. And if it's Arizona Duke, that's going to be the number 1 game.
Yeah, that'll
Let's
be.
all face it. Okay?
That'll be the one they'll put in whatever time slot. I mean, they have numbers. They have literally accountants and numbers crunchers that do this,
Exactly.
people. The numbers crunchers will figure out what time do we need to start this game because this one's going to draw the most eyeballs.
And then BYU Alabama to me is the second sexiest game behind that one. I just think that game's going to be a lot of fun. Then
you can't use sexy when you're talking about BYU. It's against the student code.
That it probably is true. But the Friday night, now we don't know who's going to play the very last game, but there's some good games. Michigan, Auburn, that one's good. I mean, I know we all hate Auburn here, but that's a good game. And
Michigan's hot. Michigan's on fire here. They got Sam Walters. They got Sam Walters. For Michigan.
They have Sam Walters, Jimmy. They got Namari Burnett. They also have
an Auburn dude. From Auburn. Yeah.
Again, it's wild how these storylines play out sometimes for these NCAA tournaments. Like, I know there's no natural storyline between Bama and BYU unless whoever's calling the game is kind of savvy and they're like,
AJ Debanta.
AJ Debanta.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. But but Auburn, Michigan with the Trey Donaldson factor is pretty interesting. Purdue, Houston's interesting. But the story of this whole thing, and again, it looks like for now, this is certainly subject to change, but that Ole Miss is going to win their game.
I'm impressed as heck with that. But Chris Beard, SEC is full of great basketball coaches, folks. I mean, in terms of why is the SEC doing this? The SEC is full of great basketball coaches. Yep. Nate Oates is at the top of that list, but Bruce Pearl, love him or hate him, great basketball coach. Chris Beard, great basketball coach. Todd Golden, apparently, great basketball coach. Chris Beard, as good as any of them.
I'm just looking at the stats now for the Bama game, and I don't mean to jump around too much, but I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures. And LeBaron Phylon was not one of them, and Phylon played 28 minutes. I mean, that's pretty doggone good, man. I mean, we can complain. I'm like you. Part of me wants to nitpick some things. I mean, I saw some things even just sitting in a sports bar having a few mojitos in the Dominican. I saw some things that were like, okay, got to fix that, got to fix this. But boy, everybody just enjoy the heck out of this.
Here's the last thing I'll say. Imagine this. Don't be this guy. Alabama wins the National Football Championship and beats someone to win it all. And when the game's over, your first comment is, we just couldn't run the ball. That's very frustrating that we can't run the ball better than that.
And by the way, Jimmy and I
know that guy.
We've opened the podcast with stuff like that in the past. But it's always opening the podcast with stuff like that against a team that we know we should have run over,
Yeah. But now, don't win the national championship, and the first thing you say is something the team didn't do well.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's
how about
outrageous.
From Mac Williams. That's not a stat. It's a factoid, I guess. Michigan also has Danny Wolf, who was on the Yale team that beat Auburn last year.
Pretty hilarious.
Jeez.
Hey, I'm telling you this. I'm going to pick Auburn to win that game, and I've got Auburn advancing to the Elite Eight in my bracket anyway. So I'm not pulling for Auburn, but I think Auburn's going to win. I won't be shocked if Michigan beats Auburn and BYU beats Alabama. And I say that as a shout out to Michigan and BYU. These are good basketball teams, and boy, those Michigan ties to Auburn are shocking.
Yeah, I mean it's really kind of cool. That's why the tournament does have a lot of fun stuff like that. And right now Colorado State's giving Maryland everything they want, so just a lot going on. But that's going to do it for today's podcast. We appreciate you guys turning into this live podcast, and congratulations to all you fans out there who love the Crimson Tide and love moving on to Sweet 16. 3 years in a row doing this. Soak it in, because I can't tell you how many other teams would trade to be in our spot right now. So enjoy it. Go have fun. I'm going to. And until next time, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.